need to train them because the last time someone asked me to run sound, I did, but half the sound system went down and I couldn't do anything about it because I was in a wheelchair.
Oh, okay. We're starting. And Shimshon, who's watching for now, and of course Yael and my mother and Avital and David and everybody who watches afterwards. Shalom Lechem to you. So we're back after the Hanukkah break, and I keep hearing the winds of war blowing, and you know how many of the classes were interrupted by missiles from Yemen. So I'm just thinking, okay, we're going to be heading back to missiles from Yemen eventually.
Nah.
Okay.
There's nothing left down.
I left my reading glasses at work, which was really stupid. So I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't have like the right distance for this. So I'll put my glasses here, and Be'ezat Hashem, we'll figure it out.
Glasses working, he can...
No. Okay, I need a little, lift this up a little bit. No, I'll be okay, just really annoying. Okay, so we're learning lesson 67 from 76. You know, I have numbers dyslexia. It's a really funny thing. So there you go. I see 76, I see 67. So, really, I used to get on the wrong buses all the time. I only discovered this when I was here in Israel, like only as an adult. And it explains why I was such a bad student in math. Okay, so we're learning from 76, but I usually catch myself like now and fix it right away. And of course, you know, we take 1 week break from learning, and who remembers what we were learning? I myself didn't remember what we were learning. You remember, are you? We were learning? Mm-hmm. Yeah, better than me. Okay, so, yeah.
Also, it's interesting because it does correspond to seeing. So
right. Exactly, that's what it was. So that's why I don't have my glasses. Okay, Yevaer inyan hari'ah be'or yashar ve'or chozer. So what I'm going to do is just read the first introduction sentence of each section, and that'll give us a quick overview. So he starts out by talking about what is the difference between seeing. So how does seeing physically work? So we have the light that goes out and the returning light. And then he uses this as a model for framing his lesson. לאחר שבאר שהידיעה בהסתכלות נעשית באור היוצא וחוזר אל העין. So after he explained physically how light reflects into the eye and out of the eye, and that is how seeing works, יבאר שהסתכלות זו עושה כלי וגבול לדבר הנראה. It said that when we see a physical object, it gives us a shape and limitation to that thing. So the example that I was giving before, if I say, close your eyes without looking at this and imagine a plastic bottle with water. So you have a picture in your head, but then when you open your eyes and you see the bottle, all of a sudden that's what it looks like. Maybe not what it looked like in your head, but that's what it looks like in reality. And this is his mashal for bitachon, for trust in Hashem. And he says the bitachon is a type of vision that when you get good enough at it, you can actually see things before they happen because you have this vision of trust in Hashem. לאחר שבאר שהסתכלות עושה ידיעה וכלי להגביר את הדבר הנראה בזמן ומקום, after he explained that looking at something gives it a limitation in time and space, יבאר שעל ידי זה ישיג מידת הביטחון בהשם. That in the same way, we're going to achieve trust and faith in Hashem. And what does that mean? It means that when things happen to us, and we see them happen, then we know that Hashem can do it. So, for example, a person that doesn't get married for a long time, and then they see their friend getting married, and then they see themselves getting married, now they know that even though they thought maybe Hashem couldn't pull this one off, maybe Hashem can do miracles for all kinds of people, but my friend got married, and that's amazing, but me, I'm not going to get married, and then you do get married, then you realize you have a certain vision. Because before it was just like this thing that you imagined, but now you actually see it because you're experiencing it. So Aryeh understands what I'm talking about, and when you get married again, Bezat Hashem, you're going to understand it as well. And it works that way with everything, whatever a person's lacking. So I'm constantly, for whatever reason, struggling with parnasa. So just what Hashem decided was going to be my challenge for this stage in my life. But I always envision paying off all my debt and having lots of money to give to my children and being able to give lots of money to tzedakah. And when the day comes, so that will no longer be something in my imagination, it'll be something that I see, because it'll actually be there. And that's the point that he's trying to make. Yiva'er she'et koach ha'istaklut hazeh, he's going to explain that this ability, this power of seeing, now this is too small for me to read, ha'osa kli makom muzman lehashpa'a, mesigim al yedei itkavut latzadikim. So, it won't make any difference.
No, I'm saying if you borrow his classes, maybe.
Well, his glasses are made for him. My glasses are.
These aren't reading also.
Okay.
Yeah, and my reading glasses are just vision glasses with a lower prescription.
What's the prescription?
I have no idea. This is -6, so these are pretty strong. So these are great for looking at distance. What could I say? I was in a rush leaving work, but we'll get through the lesson. We'll be okay. He says this power of seeing, which makes a vessel for receiving the abundance, is achieved through coming close to the tzaddikim. She'istaklut b'pneihem hi b'chinat pnei hashchina. Then when you look at the face of a tzaddik, it's like looking at the face of the Shekhinah. So the tzaddikim are people that are on an incredibly high spiritual level. You could say they're living on a level of really being able to see with their bitachon. And when you see them, then in a sense, you see Hashem's presence in the world. That's what the Shekhinah is. Shekhinah is Hashem's presence in the world. And when you see, so like if you're in the presence of the Baal Shem Tov or the Lubavitcher Rebbe or some great tzaddik, it has an influence on you. Has an influence on you. And it helps you to have more faith. How many people went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe? I use that as just a modern example, because we have videos and people that met the Rebbe. And in the Rebbe's presence, all of a sudden, if the Rebbe said, you will have parnasa, you will have health, you will get married, you will have children. Many people believed that just because the Rebbe said it, the Rebbe knew that it was going to happen. And before you went to the Rebbe, it was also going to happen. It wasn't that the Rebbe changed reality, although the Rebbe's davening could change reality. But many times the Rebbe would see that Hashem already decided that you were going to have children, parnasa, health, or get married, or whatever it is. Just you didn't see it. But when you see the Rebbe, and the Rebbe sees it, then you also, in a sense, see it. And that's the lesson that he's trying to build here. Yeve'er shalifamim al yedei menucha v'afsaka halimud explains that sometimes taking a break from learning Torah, zochim litchatshut amochim. A person merits to have a renewal of their mochin, which is their consciousness of Hashem. And we talked about, he mentioned last time that there might be people that are just kind of obsessed with learning and coming close to Hashem, and that they actually need to take a break from their learning in order to come close to Hashem. That the intensity of like pushing, I have to get closer to Hashem, leads them to a point where they're not able to see Hashem. But you can understand, take an athlete that just runs and runs, they're not going to get stronger in running. You have to take a break from running in order to get stronger. And the same thing with learning, which is, I don't know, personally I have a big problem with the Haredi lifestyle. And I daven in a major Haredi shul every day. So I face this every day. I don't know. I think that there must be, you can do chesed also if you don't want to work for whatever reason. You can go take a break from your learning and go hand out cholent to poor people, or kugel, or go, help somebody move a bed, or something. And that's what Rabbi Nachman is saying at this stage in the lesson. Okay, so we're going to continue. Yakdim levaer od beinyan ha'iyun. Sorry. The small letters I can't read. Yakdim levaer od beinyan ha'iyun agashmit. Ha'inyan agashmit. Kadei lilmod mimenu an riyat sechel. He's going to go further into explaining the physical stuff in order for us to understand how our mind sees. Ubekoach riut yesh shtei bechinot. And the power of seeing has two aspects. Yeshna riya yafa v'tova v'yeshna riya chalasha. We have somebody who has good vision, and we have people that have weak vision. So, for example, if I take off my glasses, I would be considered having weak vision at a distance. At this distance, it's good vision. So that's what he's saying. That let's continue using the example of seeing, and now let's apply it to something that we're going to talk about very soon. But now we're just going to define that there's two types of seeing: people that have good vision, people that have weak vision. Ki mi shekoach riut shelo yafeh. Someone who can see well, יכול לראות מרחוק ורואה במהירות, is able to see. Shalom Aleichem to Alice and to Shayna. Taking a barak break. That's a good one. Somebody who can see from far and can see a lot. With one shot, with one vision. הרבה דברים, lots of things. ואין צריך להתקרב אל הדבר שצריך לראות אלא. You don't have to come close in order to see the thing, but rather, ראותו מיד מהמקום הוא נמצא בו. The person with their vision is able to see the thing that right away they're able to see it. So for example, there's a bicycle all the way over there, or there's a sink, or there's a picture of the Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, or maybe that's her mother. That's her mother. That's the Rebbe's mother. And so until I come close to that thing, I can't see it. But of course the glasses do the job for me. So that's what he's trying to say. And you understand the meaning, because this is a mashal, that where some people are able to see something and they kind of nail it. Yes, I know that this thing Hashem is going to be able to do for me, and I have such complete clarity and faith in it that there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. And there's other people that say, can Hashem really do it? I don't know. He says that's the difference. So just like we have people that can see things clearly, we have people that have emunah on the level that they can see things clearly. Aval, mi she'en koach hariut shelo chazak, but somebody whose vision is not very strong, הוא צריך להתקרב לדבר שרוצה לראות ולהסתכל בו יפה. Person has to come close to the thing that they want to see, and in order to see it well. בהתבוננות, in order to meditate on it. עד שתרכז הראייה שיראה אותו היטב, until the person focuses on the thing and then they can see it well. So, if we take some small object that at a distance a person couldn't see and you bring it close, now at least I can see all the details on this. And that's what he's saying. That sometimes you can see something straight away at a distance, and sometimes you have to bring the thing close to you in order to see it well. Nimtza, it follows, שהידיעת הראייה, knowing, the knowing that comes with seeing, מתעכבת אצלו, is delayed by that person. עד שיתקרב על הדבר, ועד שיסתכל בו יפה, until the person comes close to the object and can see it well, ואינו יכול להשיג הידיעה מיד, and the person is not able to grasp this immediately. So just like I was saying, imagine a person comes to the Rebbe, we'll take the Lubavitcher Rebbe as an example, and they say, Rebbe, my wife and I have been married for many years, and we haven't had any children, and the Rebbe says, here's $1 for you, here's $1 for your wife, and here's $1 for your baby. So you know that the baby is coming. The Rebbe didn't say that for nothing. The Rebbe just gave you the vision that the Rebbe had. The Rebbe was able to look at a distance and see something that you couldn't see, but when you're in the presence of the tzaddik, it's like seeing the Shekhinah, and that gives you vision, in a sense, that brings the thing closer to you. And I'm sure that there are people that would hold on to that $1, knowing with total faith that the baby was going to come, even if it was 20 years later, or whatever it was. By the way, there's some crazy stories. This one lady who had a bunch of dollars, and she wrote the dates on the dollars. She was giving them to the mothers of hostages and saying, when your son or your daughter comes back, you'll give me back the $1. And the two of them, the date that was on the $1 that she got from the Rebbe, that she wrote on the $1 and gave it to these mothers, was the day that hostage came home. This was some woman that told me this just as I was locking up my note. She said, I have to tell you the story because it happened to her personally. Shalom Aleichem to the people joining us. I guess Facebook likes me all of a sudden. So that's the power, and this is, recently, the Rebbe passed away in 1994. So this is 30 years after the Rebbe died. So this gives you, what he's saying in this lesson is that it gives you vision, having this connection with the tzaddikim, and the tzaddikim seeing things that you yourself can't see, it gives you their vision. Kain ba'avodat Hashem yitbarach, and so it is with her service of Hashem, meaning our relationship with Hashem, or coming close to Hashem. Yesh mi shemocho tzach ve'zach ve'naki mikon sig upsolet. There's a person who their mind is completely clear and clean and crisp and doesn't have any nonsense in their brain. Ve'yachol yitpalel o lelmod bli iyun. And a person can daven or learn without any distracting thoughts. V'yesh mi shetzarich la'alot v'machshavato mikodem shedaber hainu. And then there are other people that first have to give it some thought and think about what they want to learn or focus on their learning or to what they want to daven, and then say that thing. Hainu, that is to say, she'achzor b'machshavato et hadvarim she'rotzeh lomar. The person has to go over, review the things that they want to say. So I had this, for example, this morning. There was a bris in the shul that I daven in, and I wanted to take a picture. I'm always scared to take out my cell phone with these guys because some of them get genuinely upset. Everyone there was black except for me. And I don't mean Schwarza black, I mean, like Haredi black. And it's just kind of... Penguins. It's just kind of this awesome experience because you're like... it was just me and Rav Cheshen sitting there learning, and all of a sudden the shul is filled with all these Haredi guys. And so the sandak, the person that holds the baby for the bris, he has a special segula the day that he's the sandak, that he can give brachas. He has the power to bless. So whenever you're at a bris, go to the sandak and ask for a blessing. So I went straight over to the sandak, right? First, Ana Hashem Oshiana, and also I say usually one or two prakim of, verse. What's it called? The pasuk of Tehillim. Every day. I don't have the patience to say much more than that. Today it happened to be the end of Hallel, where we say Ana Hashem Oshiana, and then the bris comes. And I said Ana Hashem Oshiana and Ana Hashem Atzlichana. Hashem save me, Hashem make me successful. And then I went to the sandak and I said, give me a bracha. He said, what do you want? I said, I want parnasa. So he said, Hashem should bless you with parnasa. I'm like, okay, a little bit more. He's like, what more? He said, I'll bless you and you bless me back. You should have parnasa. And it should come in an easy way. And you should enjoy it. And you should use it for good health. And you should give it to your children. And you should be able to help your children. You should have shalom bayit. And you should have a long and healthy life. And to learn Torah. And to have chasidish nachas from all your children and your grandchildren. And to do it all b'simcha. And he looked at me. He's like, wow, that's some bracha. So he said, the deal was, I bless you and you bless me back. He's like, I bless you back, I bless you back. Okay, so now why did I say that? Because I gave all this stuff a lot of thought. Whenever people ask me for a bracha, I already know what to say. I try to give something personal for the person as well, but I always think of all these good things. This is what he's talking about here. There are people that come to davening or come to learning, and their mind is already clear. They're able to get the words out. They know exactly what to say. And there are other people that have to give it some thought, and then it comes out. And this is also connected to somebody who sees clearly and somebody who has to come close to the thing. So the clearer your thoughts are, the better you're able to daven, and the better you're able to learn. And the more work you have to do on it, so you can still get it, but it's just going to take you more work. ואם ידבר מקודם שיעלה במחשבתו, יהיה הדיבור בלא מחשבה. כי אינו יכול לחשוב במהירות תוך כדי דיבורו. So he says, if a person says something before they thought about it, then they're not going to be able to say it and think at the same time. There are some people who can be very quick and respond to something, and other people that need a long time to process it. Hashem Alechem to Sharon. So he's saying this is also like, some people see clearly, some people daven clearly, and some people think clearly. Some people are very sharp and very witty, and that's also an example. V'hu b'chinat achar advrim, and this is connected to after the things. Now we started this lesson off. I'm pretty sure the quote was achar advrim. Let's go back for a second. That's the quote that we started off. And it was after these things happened that Hashem tested Avraham. That's the original quote that we're starting this whole thing off with. So he says, a person that's able, a person that needs time to process their thoughts before they speak is connected to achar hadvrim, after these things. Perush, the meaning is, only after a person thinks for a certain amount of time, the person is able to say those words. And a person can't say these things quickly without thinking about it first. This is like a person whose mind is clear and good. So we see this in the regular, now we're talking about spiritual things, but just see this in the regular world. Some people are very quick with comebacks. Some people are very sharp and witty. So I don't remember when I saw this. Orson Welles. You know who Orson Welles was?
Yeah.
He was a famous author. He wrote 1984. He wrote Animal Farm. He also made many movies. And you want to add something? Okay. And he was like a big intellectual and also a very big, fat man, especially as he got older. And he's on some talk show. So I just watched a bunch of interviews with Orson Welles. It showed up, I guess it's on Sukkot or something. Either that or when I was sick with Corona 5 years ago, which I was watching interviews with Ernest Hemingway when I was laying in bed. So the two of them hated each other and they were friends. Okay, so Orson Welles is on some talk show, late night talk show. And this actor, I don't even know who the actor was. He comes on stage while Orson Welles is sitting there. And he looks at Orson Welles and he says something like, have you heard of some cartoon character called, like Fatty or something like that? He's like, wow, you put the fat in Fatty. And Orson Welles said, I might be fat, but you're ugly and I can go on a diet. So there you are on national TV and you come up with some witty response to this chutzpah guy. You have to have a very clear mind in order to do that. Now somebody might think of it afterwards. You're sitting there on stage, you're embarrassed by this guy and you just sit there and you're like, okay, well, what do you want? And then when you're back home, you're like, oh, I should have said to him, well, I can go on a diet. But somebody, and I'm just bringing this as an example, this is what it is also with davening and learning as well. That's what he's trying to say. That some people have a clear mind, and in their clear mind, I came preloaded with brachot. This is what Yael said. Baruch Hashem. Yes. You come with a clear mind, so these things are able to flow out of you. And this is like clear vision as well. And as opposed to, I know I'm taking off my glasses and it only makes a difference for me. I'm the only one that sees blurry when I take off my glasses. When I take off my glasses, so everything is blurry and then I have clear vision. V'zeu b'chinat mochim dekatnut. And this, if a person has to first think about what they want to say instead of it coming clearly to them, this is an attribute of a small-minded consciousness or a constricted consciousness. Shem b'chinat dinim, which is connected to judgment. This we mentioned in previous class. Umisha sichlo tzach she'ein tzarich leverer et psolet hamoach. And a person whose mind is clear and doesn't need to clean up the garbage in their mind, ele miyad machshavato zacha, but rather his mind is already clear, nechona v'tova, straight and good. Hu begadlut amochin. This is a person that has an expanded or a broad-minded consciousness. V'hu b'chinat rachamim b'chasadim, and this is connected to kindness and compassion, kamevu'ar, as it's explained. Let's see. Hari'ah lezeh shegadlut amochim hi b'chinat chesed v'rachamim. Okay, so also connected. A person that is able to see clearly, that's also connected to kindness and compassion. Chachamim v'zichronam v'cha, a sage of blessed memory said in Masechet Brachot, Gedula de'ah shenitna ben shtei shemot shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. De'ah, knowledge or wisdom, or specifically de'ah is seeing Hashem's presence in the world, is greater than the two names of Hashem. Shene'emar, as it said, Ki kel de'ot Hashem. Hashem's name is De'ot. V'shem, so he's just bringing a text proof to prove his point here. V'shem Elokim u'b'chinat chesed, Shem Kel, sorry. Kel, Hashem's name is connected to kindness. Rachamim Rabim Hashem, and also Rachamim, great compassion, is connected to Hashem's name. Nimtza shemi sheyesh lo de'ah, dahainu sichlo tzach, u'b'chinat chesed v'rachamim. So Hashem will give you compassion one way or another, but sometimes it can come from you having a clear mind, and sometimes it has to come from Hashem basically being kind to the person who's a little slow-minded. And the meaning is that Hashem will eventually send you answers to all of your questions. In this world, if you have a clear enough mind to see it. I actually have this happen all the time. The Hashem sends me totally random things. And then afterwards, I realize, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Sometimes it's very clear. Sometimes it needs... Oh, Sharon wrote a big comment, so I'm going to have to read it afterwards. George Orwell. So, for example, I'll tell you something very clear, which was totally crazy. I edited my Baal Shem Tov book with AI, and I did it maybe a year ago. Now I'm reading over all of the stories in the book, just making sure everything is good. And there was one story that seemed like it was a repeat of another story. Turns out AI cut the story down by 60%. But how did I find out? This guy sends me a random comment on YouTube. Hey, I'm looking for this Baal Shem Tov story. Can you tell me which episode it is? So I go to work, I find the episode, and already by the time I found it, he had written me a comment, oh, I found it. But that was the story that had been cut by 60%. And I looked at the story, was 24 minutes long, and it was about 6 pages in the book. So I went to find the original transcript, and I saw that the story was cut. Now, this was Hashem sending me a sign. Right? How much clearer could it be? A guy totally out of nowhere sends me a comment on YouTube about a story that if I printed the story, it would have been wrong. Now I have to check every story. But that's what I mean. That a person that has a clear mind, so they'll see something, they'll make the connections, and that's a way, in a sense, for Hashem to communicate with the person without them losing their free will. Because anybody who wants to say that this wasn't Hashem can simply say it was a total random coincidence, that this guy sent a comment and one thing had nothing to do with the other. Okay, continuing. And then we're just going to stop after this section here. I think so. That's what I was planning anyhow. And the next section is the last section. So next week we're going to finish this lesson, B'ezrat Hashem. יבאר שרק על ידי תשובה מאהבה יכול להשיג לשכל צח ומוחים תגדלות. The only way that a person can achieve a clear consciousness, clear mind, is when they do teshuva from a place of ahava, and also to receive an expanded consciousness. Now, teshuva me'ahava means I don't want to be distanced from Hashem. I'm not going to do this transgression, not because I'm scared of being punished, but because I don't want it to distance me from Hashem. So, for example, if a person knows that eating non-kosher food, even if it's b'di'evet kosher, let's say there's some beer that might not be kosher. I don't know, or like sherry. I guess that's not a good example. There must be some foods that are on the border, where you could have them, you couldn't have them. And you know that if you have this food, it's going to make some type of spiritual disconnect between you and Hashem. So you say, I'm not going to eat this food, even though I could eat this food, because I don't want to have the disconnect from Hashem. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't think of anything. Or you could go even stealing. I'm not going to steal this thing, even though I want to steal it, because I don't want to have this disconnect from Hashem. So that's teshuva from ahava. When a person starts doing teshuva from that place, then they come closer to Hashem than teshuva meyira from fear or from awe. Ach, i'efshar litpaler or lilmod. It's impossible for a person to daven or to learn b'sechel tzach, with a clear mind. Shiyu lo diburim tovim b'machshava meira, that he should have good things to say and to be able to think quickly. Ela an sheyashu b'tshuva shlema al chata'av me'ahava shelo nish'ar shum roshem klal. That a person should do tshuva from ahava, from love, on all their transgressions, so that nothing will remain at all. Because what happens when a person does tshuva from ahava? Their transgressions are turned into mitzvot. And if the transgressions are turned into mitzvot in a complete way, then you don't have any memory of the transgressions that you used to do. And you can probably compare this to periods in your life. There were periods in your life where that was like one thing that was your world. For example, when I was in the army, when you're in the army is its own world. It's like there's nothing outside of the army. And then you get out of the army and you realize that there's things beyond that. And when you are completely out of the army, like I haven't been in the army for 20 years probably, probably, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less, 18 years, whatever it is. So you don't remember that world anymore. So he says, when you do tshuva from Ava, you get to the place where you don't even remember what it is to transgress anymore. When you reach that place, Kamosha Katuv, as is written, V'mal Hashem et levavcha, that Hashem circumcised your heart. Lim'ol et alev, in order to circumcise your heart. Hu hasarat hayetzara melevavo al yedei tshuva. It's removing the foreskin of your heart by doing tshuva. V'taugumo, and I guess this is Unkelis that translated, Ve'yadi Hashem yat tipshut libcha, that Hashem will remove the foolishness from your heart. Harei she'al yedei hatshuva hadam zoche la'asir et hatipshut. By doing tshuva, a person merits to remove the foolishness. She'az hu zoche l'sechel tzach. And then a person merits to have a clear mind. So, take anybody who was involved in the secular world in a very deep way, and now they become a Baal Tshuva, so that gives them an ability to disconnect themselves from the craziness from where they were. I have a friend who's very wealthy. I have a lot of these wealthy friends. One day by all of us, Bezat Hashem. And he likes to tell me how when he was secular, he hung out with this rapper and this rock star and did heroin and did cocaine and had strippers. And I'm just like, does any limit? He's like, no. And I had so much money. I had private jets and I would fly everywhere and I could afford anything. And I was smoking pot all day long. And I said, wow, it's a good thing you did tshuva. He's like, well, I miss those days. So
yeah, I can understand that.
I can't understand that. Even when I wasn't religious, I was a Boy Scout, so I never was into any of that stuff. But what he's saying is that when you disconnect yourself from, for example, from that type of lifestyle, and drinking as well, of course, he was always looking for the most expensive alcohol and the most expensive whiskey. Now he doesn't drink any alcohol. So you get a sechel yashar, you get a clear mind. Ube'eze tshuva ne'emar. Be'eze tshuva ne'emar. And what tshuva are we talking about? B'tshuva shalava, b'tshuva me'ava, tshuva from a place of love. Shelo yisher shum roshem klal. There won't be any memory at all, any remnant at all. Shezeo na'aseh achet ba'atzmo ne'epach l'schut. That the one that did this transgression, now it's turned into a mitzvah or a merit. K'mevuar chachamenu suchanam v'chaz. The sage of the lesson member said in the verse, Shuvu banim shovavim eupei meshavotam. Return the rambunctious children, and I will heal them of their waywardness. The kasha, this is difficult to understand. Shovavim mashma de mikara belo shum roshem. He says, we have these rambunctious kids, and we're going to uproot them completely, and there's not going to be any remembrance at all of how they used to behave. Dehainu, that is to say, she ta'asu tshuva, when you do tshuva, ma'ale ani alechem ki ilo tchila chet hayeta al yedei ne'erut v'shtut v'shovavut. Hashem says, I'm going to, when you do tshuva from Ava, I'm going to raise you up to the point that the transgression that you did will be considered as if it was done just out of total foolishness. You didn't intend it at all, which was probably the real reason. That if a person understood that one day they would be a Baal Tshuva and live a life of Torah and mitzvot, then they wouldn't have done those transgressions anyway. V'al chet kazeh, and regarding a transgression like this, Yeshnam slicha gemora ki'ilu lo chata klal. And regarding a transgression like this, there's forgiveness and whatever. There's forgiveness as if a person didn't do the transgression at all. Ve'ilu eupeh mashma isher roshem. And regarding I will heal them, the intention is that there's still a remnant, because eupeh mashma rak mikan ve'elach, that I'm going to heal you is only from here and to further on. Kaban mum shenirpeh, just like a person that has a limp or an injury and they're healed, umiktzat sham mum adayin alav, and the person still has a little bit of it left in their body. Umishnei mitretzet hagemara, and the Gemara explains, kan me'ava vekan me'yira. This one is from doing teshuva from a place of love, and this one from a place of fear. She heshev me'ava ne'ekar avono mitchila. When a person does teshuva from a place of love, then it's completely uprooted, the transgression. Ki me'ava ein nishar shum roshem. But when a person does teshuva from love, there's no remnant remaining. V'yesh lo sechel tzach, and a person has a clear mind. Ki ein ha'avanot me'akvim u'mebalbelim etzichlo, because the transgressions don't bother the person or confuse the person. V'yechol yitpalel bli shum iyun, the person can daven without any distractions. V'chol yom v'yom yechol yitchadesh mocho, and every day he can renew his mind. Shezeu b'chinat mochim degatlut, that this is the expanded consciousness. Shekol pam sichlo olech v'gadem v'kanal, that all continuously the person's consciousness and awareness of Hashem gets stronger and grows. Okay, we have like 2 minutes left. I'm going to tell the story very shortly. I'm always looking for these short Hasidic stories, the Reb Zusha stories for Yael. I've told them all, maybe even twice. So no more Reb Zusha stories, so I'll find new ones. This couple came to the Baal Shem Tov and they said, and I guess this is related to the lesson, they said, we haven't had children, we never had children, can you give us a bracha? The Baal Shem Tov looks at this holy vision and he says, I can't help you, but go 2 towns from here, go to the tavern and ask for Chaim. So they think that's very strange, but nothing to lose. They go 2 towns, they find the tavern, they say, where's Chaim? And the bartender says, what, you want Chaim the drunk? And they said, no, we want Chaim the tzaddik. He said, well, there's only one Chaim here, he's a drunk. Go to the back and there he is. This Jewish guy is drinking all the time and totally drunk and doesn't even know where he is. And they said, Chaim, the Baal Shem Tov sent us for a bracha. He said, bracha, he throws beer at them, throws the table upside down. They go back to the bartender and they said, we're looking for Chaim the tzaddik. He said, well, this guy, if you can get him sober, he'll give you a bracha like you've never heard before. So they see some big guy in the tavern, they pay him a little money, he ties Chaim up to a chair, and they leave him there for a couple of days until he sobers up. And they come to him, they say, Chaim, give us a bracha for children. He said, I bless you with children and parnasa, and all of these wonderful things. He says, now give me a beer. So they ein time, give him a beer, he goes back to drinking. They go back to the Baal Shem Tov. Of course, they had the child, they had the parnasa, everything the guy blessed them with. And they said to the Baal Shem Tov, why is all this power to bless stuck with some drunkard? And the Baal Shem Tov said, because he's not able to contain the power that Hashem gave him. And so he doesn't have the mochin, he doesn't have the expanded consciousness in order to hold the energy that Hashem gave him, and it leads him to drinking and getting drunk. But only if he only knew that if he stopped the drinking, he would be a great tzaddik, and he could handle it, then he would stop the drinking. But I knew that if you went to him and he got a bracha, you could relate to this for some reason, that the bracha would come true. Okay, Shakoch everyone. Let's play a little nigun. I should know some more nigunim after playing like every night of Hanukkah. What are we going to play? Probably the same things. All right. everyone.